best teachings of the Buddha. 1. Four Noble Truths. The world is full of suffering. Birth is suffering, aging, sickness, and death are suffering. Meeting people we dislike is suffering. Parting from loved ones is suffering, and unfulfilled desires are suffering. Indeed, for those who haven't let go of attachment, everything is suffering. This is called the truth of suffering, dukkha. What causes human suffering? It stems from the craving for sensual pleasures and the ignorance associated with them. At the root of these afflictions are our instinctual desires. Such desires are inherently tied to life and seek satisfaction even to the point of death. This is called the truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. If one eradicates all these roots of afflictions and detaches from all attachments, suffering will cease. This is called the truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha. To reach the state where there is no craving and suffering, one must practice the Noble Eightfold Path. This includes right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This Noble Eightfold Path is the true path to eliminating the causes of suffering, magga. Followers of the Buddha must always remember these truths. Because life is full of suffering, those who wish to escape it must uproot the causes of affliction. Only through enlightenment can one reach the state where suffering and afflictions no longer exist. Achieving enlightenment is possible through this Noble Eightfold Path. Anyone seeking enlightenment must understand these four noble truths. Ignorance of these truths keeps people wandering in delusion. Those who understand the Four Noble Truths are said to have the eye of enlightenment. Therefore, those who wish to follow the Buddha's teachings must clearly understand the doctrine of these Four Noble Truths. True saints in any era are those who have realized and taught these Four Noble Truths. Understanding these four truths leads people to renounce desires, avoid conflicts, refrain from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying, disdain, flattery, jealousy, anger, and from forgetting the impermanence of life or straying from the path. Practicing the Noble Path is like entering a dark room with a lamp in hand. The darkness disappears and the room is illuminated. Those who understand and follow the Four Noble Truths possess the lamp of wisdom, dispelling the darkness of ignorance. The Buddha guides beings by showing these Four Noble Truths. By learning the Buddha's teachings and achieving true enlightenment through the Four Noble Truths, one becomes a refuge and protector for people in the world. For the Four Noble Truths are clear, and the roots of ignorance are eradicated. A disciple of the Buddha, by understanding the Four Noble Truths, comprehends other teachings, gains merit, and attains the wisdom to explain the Dharma clearly to anyone. 2. Causes and conditions. Human suffering has causes, and there is a path to end this suffering. Everything in life arises and ceases due to conditions. Rain falls, wind blows, flowers bloom, and leaves fall, all because of conditions. This body is born due to the conditions of having parents and is nourished by food. Similarly, this mind grows through knowledge and experience. Therefore, this body and mind are formed by conditions and change according to conditions. Just like the web of a net is created by intertwining threads, everything in life is interconnected. Believing that each thread in the net is an independent existence is a great mistake. A thread is called a part of the net only when it is woven with other threads. Each thread plays a role in connecting with others to form the net. A flower blooms because many conditions come together, and a leaf falls because many conditions come together, not simply because it decides to bloom or fall on its own. Just as a flower blooms due to conditions and a leaf falls due to conditions, everything changes. Nothing exists independently, nor does anything remain constant. The principle that all things arise and cease due to conditions is an unchanging truth. Therefore, everything constantly changes, never staying the same. This is the true principle of the universe. Only this principle remains eternally unchanged. 3. Dependent origination. Why do human beings experience sorrow and suffering? It is due to attachment. They cling to wealth, honor, pleasure, and personal enjoyment. They are unaware that these attachments are the sources of their suffering. From the beginning, this world has been full of disasters. Moreover, since aging, illness, and death are inevitable, people experience sorrow and suffering. However, fundamentally, it is attachment that causes sorrow and suffering. If one is free from attachment, all sorrow and suffering will disappear. Furthermore, if one eliminates this attachment, one will recognize the ignorance and craving within the mind. Due to ignorance, people are blinded and cannot see the truth of cause and effect. Craving is desiring what one cannot have and clinging to it. Originally, all things are undifferentiated, but due to ignorance and craving, one perceives differences. Originally, all things are neither good nor bad, but due to ignorance and craving, one sees them as good or bad. People often have mistaken thoughts. Due to ignorance, they cannot see correctly. They act wrongly due to attachment to the self. As a result, they create confusion for themselves. Suppose our actions calm our fields. The mind is the seed, covered by the soil of ignorance, watered by the rain of craving, irrigated by the self, with added evil intentions, thus creating confusion. Ultimately, it is this mind that generates a world of delusion, filled with sorrow, grief, and suffering. This deluded world is merely a reflection of the mind, manifested from this mind, and an enlightened world is also manifested from this mind. There are three mistaken views in life. If one follows these views, everything in this world is negated. First, some believe that everything one experiences in life is due to fate. Second, some believe that these experiences are created by divine beings. Third, some believe that everything occurs without cause or condition. If everything is determined by fate, then both good and evil in this world, as well as happiness and suffering, are due to fate. Nothing exists outside of fate's arrangement. Consequently, all human hopes and efforts become meaningless, and progress and improvement in this world cease to exist. The belief that divine beings create everything, and the belief in the lack of cause and condition are similarly criticized. All intentions to abandon evil and practice good become meaningless. Therefore, these three views are incorrect. Everything arises due to conditions and ceases due to conditions. For impermanence and non-self, both body and mind are formed by conditions. Hence, there is no real substance in the body. This body is a collection of causes and conditions. Therefore, the body is impermanent. If this body had a real substance, it would be as we wish it to be. A king can punish what deserves punishment and reward what deserves reward, doing what he wants. However, despite not wanting to get sick, one still gets sick. Despite not wanting to age, one still ages. Our physical body often does not fulfill our desires. Likewise, the human mind has no real substance. The mind is also a collection of conditions, always changing. If the mind had a real substance, it would be as we wish. But even when the mind does not want to think of evil, it still does. Despite not wishing to stray from goodness, it does. Our desires often go unfulfilled. Is this body unchanging, or is it also impermanent? If we ask this question, everyone will certainly answer that it is impermanent. If we ask whether impermanence is suffering or happiness, everyone will certainly answer that to be born is to eventually age, get sick, die, and experience pain, thus leading to suffering. If one thinks that impermanence, change, and suffering are the true self, it is a mistake. The mind is also impermanent, suffering, and not a true self. Thus, the body and mind, forming our being and everything related to it, are far from the concept of I and mine. Only in the absence of wisdom does one cling to the idea of a self and possessions. Since both the body and everything around us are formed by conditions and are always changing without stopping, they change like flowing water or a burning candle. The mind constantly fluctuates like a monkey or an ape, never at peace. A wise person sees and understands this and must discard attachment to the body and mind. By letting go of attachment to both body and mind, one can achieve enlightenment. There are 5 things in this world that no one can do. 1 is to not age when one is aging. 2 is to not get sick when one is sick. 3 is to not die when one must die. 4 is to prevent the destruction of what must be destroyed. 5 is to avoid decline when it is inevitable. Ordinary people suffer and grieve when faced with these inevitable things, but those who have studied the Buddha's teachings do not hold on to such sorrow because they understand these are unavoidable truths. Furthermore, there are 4 truths in this world. 1 is that all beings are born from ignorance. 2 is that the objects of desire are impermanent, suffering, and always changing. 3 is that all existences are impermanent, suffering, and always changing. 4 is that the self and what belongs to the self do not truly exist. Everything is impermanent, always changing, and there is no real self. Whether the Buddha appears in this world or not, this truth remains eternal. The Buddha knew this, realized this, and taught it to humanity. 5. The creation of evil by the mind. Whether one is deluded or enlightened, it all manifests from the mind. Everything is created by the mind. It's similar to how an illusionist conjures various things. The human mind is constantly transforming, and its influence is boundless. A defiled mind results in a corrupt world, while a pure mind leads to a serene world. Therefore, the external world manifests infinitely based on the mind. Like a painting created by an artist, the external world is shaped by the mind. The world created by the Buddhas is pure, without afflictions. The world created by humans is tainted by afflictions. The mind is like a skilled artist, painting all sorts of worlds. Nothing in this world is not created by the mind. Just as with the human mind, so it is with the Buddha. Just as with the Buddhas, so it is with sentient beings. Thus, from the perspective that everything is painted, the mind, the Buddha, and sentient beings are fundamentally indistinguishable. The Buddha correctly understood that all phenomena arise from the mind. Therefore, those who see this can truly see the Buddha. However, this mind is often filled with fear, sorrow, and suffering. It fears what has happened and what has not yet happened. Why is this so? Because the mind contains ignorance and attachment. From this grasping mind, the world of delusion is born. In short, the causes and conditions of the deluded world are all within the mind. Birth and death also arise from the mind. Therefore, when the mind which is related to birth and death is extinguished, delusion and ignorance are also extinguished. This deluded world is created by the mind. By seeing with a deluded mind, the world appears deluded. If one leaves behind the deluded mind and understands that there is no deluded world, one leaves behind defilements and attains enlightenment. Thus, this world is guided by the mind, pulled by the mind, and governed by the mind. A world full of afflictions appears because of a deluded mind. All things are led by the mind, dominated by the mind, and made by the mind. If one speaks and acts with a defiled mind, suffering will follow like the wheel follows the ox. However, if one speaks and acts with a wholesome mind, happiness will follow like a shadow. The one who does evil will receive bad karma and suffer. The one who does good will receive good karma and be happy. If the mind is defiled, the path will be rough, leading to stumbling. But if the mind is pure, the path will be smooth and safe. Whoever has a pure body and mind can break through the net of delusion and enter the Buddha's realm. A calm mind brings peace. Therefore, one must strive day and night to cultivate the mind bit by bit. 6. The true nature of things. All things in this world arise from conditions and thus inherently have no distinctions. Any perceived differences are due to human biases. The universe does not differentiate between east and west, but humans have created these distinctions and hold on to them. Numbers, for instance, naturally start from 1 and extend infinitely, each being complete and without quantitative differences. Yet humans distinguish between more and less for convenience. Essentially, without birth, there is no death. However, due to human biases, birth and death appear distinct. Similarly, human actions are inherently neither good nor evil, but they are perceived as such due to human biases. The Buddha, having transcended these biases, saw the world as clouds drifting in the sky, as illusions. He perceived that anything the mind clings to or rejects is illusory. He had abandoned calculative and discriminatory thinking. Humans cling to possessions, wealth, honor, and life itself. This attachment to existence, non-existence, good, evil, right and wrong leads to compounded suffering and errors. There's a story of a traveler who, upon encountering a vast river, thought, "This side is full of danger, but the other side seems safe." He made a raft and safely crossed the river. Then he thought, "This raft has brought me to safety. It is very useful. I should not abandon it but carry it on my shoulders." Can we say that this person is handling the raft appropriately? Certainly not. This example illustrates that even correct views should be abandoned when necessary, let alone incorrect views. All things neither come nor go, are neither born nor die, so nothing is truly gained or lost. The Buddha taught that all things are neither existent nor non-existent because they transcend the categories of being and non-being. They are neither existent nor non-existent, neither born nor destroyed. Things arise from conditions, and their essence lacks true nature, so they are said to be non-existent. Yet, because they arise from conditions, they are not non-existent either. Seeing the forms of things and clinging to them is the cause of delusion, but perceiving them without attachment leads to no calculative thinking. Enlightenment is seeing this true principle and being free from calculative thoughts. This world is like a dream. Wealth and treasures are like illusions. Just as a painting shows clear distances, things themselves have no true essence. They are like mirages. Things appear due to countless conditions. Believing they exist permanently is a mistaken view called eternalism. Believing they do not exist at all is another mistaken view called nihilism. Eternalism and nihilism do not represent the true form of things, but are the product of human attachment. Things inherently transcend these attachments. All things arise from conditions, and thus change because they lack true essence. They are not eternal and unchanging as if they had true essence. They are always changing, like illusions or dreams. Yet this change is also an eternal and unchanging truth. To humans, a river is a river, but to hungry ghosts the river water appears as fire, so they cannot see it as a river. Thus, regarding the river, it cannot be said to exist for hungry ghosts and cannot be said not to exist for humans. Similarly, it cannot be said that all things exist or do not exist. They are like illusions. However, leaving behind this illusory world does not lead to a true world or an eternal world. Thus, seeing the world as false is incorrect, and seeing it as true is also incorrect. Ordinary people regard the world as truly existent and act according to this view. But since this world is essentially an illusion, their actions based on this error ultimately lead to loss and suffering. The wise, realizing this truth, see the illusion as an illusion, and thus avoid the above error. 7. The middle path. Those who practice the path of enlightenment must avoid two extremes in life. One is a life immersed in indulgence, succumbing to desires. The other is a life of self-mortification, uselessly tormenting oneself. By avoiding these extremes, one's wisdom eye is opened, intelligence increases, and one leads a balanced life that leads to enlightenment. What is this balanced life? It is the noble Eightfold Path, which includes right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. All things arise and perish due to an infinite chain of causes and conditions. Ordinary people either see existence or non-existence, but the vision of a wise person transcends these concepts. This is the correct view of the middle path. A log floating down a river, if it does not drift to either bank, does not sink in the middle, does not get stranded on the shore, is not taken by someone, is not caught in a whirlpool, and is not rotting from within, will eventually reach the vast ocean. Similarly, like this log, those who practice the path of enlightenment must not get entangled in inner or outer things, must not cling to existence or non-existence, must avoid right and wrong, and should detach from delusion without being bound by it. Placing oneself in the middle is the perspective of the middle path, the middle way of life. It is crucial in the practice to avoid these two extremes and continuously walk the middle path. If one understands that all things neither truly arise nor perish and inherently have no fixed nature, one will not be entangled. They will not cling to the good they do or be bound by things. Being unbound means not holding on to or being attached. Those who practice the path of enlightenment are neither afraid of death nor seek life, and they do not chase after different views. When one begins to cling, they start living in delusion. Therefore, those walking the path of awakening will live a life without holding on, without attachment, without entanglement, without clinging. Enlightenment has no specific form or substance, so enlightenment itself does not have something that is enlightened. Because there is delusion, enlightenment is mentioned. If there were no delusion, there would be no enlightenment. Without delusion, enlightenment is not there. Without enlightenment, delusion is not there. Hence, the existence of enlightenment becomes an obstacle. Just as light is needed because there is darkness, if there were no darkness, the need for light would not exist. Enlightenment and the enlightened object both cease to exist. Those who practice the path of enlightenment, once enlightened, will not cling to their enlightenment, because distinguishing enlightenment becomes delusion again. Reaching this state, all delusions become enlightenment. Darkness is simply light, and afflictions are simply bodhi. All things are equal without distinctions. This is called emptiness. The essence of things has no true nature, neither arises nor perishes. This is why it is called emptiness, as it cannot be expressed in words. All things exist due to mutual dependence, relying on each other to exist, not independently. Like form and shadow, long and short, black and white, the essence of things cannot exist independently, hence it is said to have no self-nature. Moreover, without delusion, there would be no enlightenment, and outside enlightenment, there is no delusion. These two are not fundamentally different, nor are they two opposing things. People often think that things have birth and death, but truly, there is neither birth nor death. When one sees this truth, they can realize the truth of non-duality of birth and death. Because people think there is a self, they cling to the mind, but inherently there is no self, so certainly there is no mind. Knowing there is no self in mind, one realizes the truth of non-difference. People think that there is purity and defilement and thus cling to these two. However, things are neither pure nor defiled. Purity and defilement are merely products of human intention. People think that good and evil are fundamentally different and thus cling to good and evil. However, there is no separate good and there is no separate evil. Those who walk the path of enlightenment know that good and evil are not fundamentally different and realize this truth. People seek happiness to avoid misfortune. However, with true wisdom, one sees that misfortune is happiness and happiness is misfortune. The wise face the impermanent life with an equal mind, neither excited by success nor depressed by failure. This is the one who realizes the truth of non-difference. Therefore, whether it is existence or non-existence, delusion or enlightenment, real or unreal, right or wrong, in essence, there are no such contrasting concepts. When people can detach from these categories, they can realize the true emptiness shunyata. Just as a lotus cannot live in clean uplands but blooms in muddy water, similarly, there is no enlightenment apart from delusion. The seed of Buddhahood is born from delusion and wrong views. If one does not brave the dangers and dive into the ocean, one cannot retrieve the priceless pearl. Similarly, if one does not plunge into the mire of delusion, one cannot obtain the jewel of enlightenment. Those who seek the path of enlightenment initially get lost in the mountains of self and ego before realizing and seeking the path to enlightenment. There is a story of an ascetic who, determined to seek the path, climbed a mountain of knives without being harmed, threw himself into raging fire without being burned, feeling cool instead. If one has the heart to seek the path and is willing to take risks, they will find the cool breeze, whether on a mountain of knives of fame and profit, or in the raging fire of anger, and eventually they will feel the breeze of enlightenment blowing through. Buddha's teachings lead people to the truth of non-discrimination, away from extreme views. However, if one clings to one of the extremes, even if it is good or right, it is still a mistake. If people insist that all things are empty, impermanent, it is a wrong view. And if they insist that all things are unchanging, it is even more wrong. Again, if people think there is a self, it is a wrong view and cannot escape suffering. If they think there is no self, it is also a wrong view, and practice will not be effective. Again, if people think all things are suffering, it is a wrong view, and if they think all things are happiness, it is also a wrong view. Buddha's teaching is the middle path, away from these dualities. A pure mind. Human beings are diverse. Some are wise, some ignorant. Some are kind-hearted, some ill-natured. Some are easy to guide, some difficult. Just like a pond with lotus flowers of various colors, green, red, yellow, and white, growing and blooming in the water. Some flowers do not rise above the water's surface. Some reach it, some grow higher, and some remain unsoiled by water. Similarly, humans have many differences. There are differences in gender, but not in essence, because, through practice and necessary mental processes, both men and women can attain enlightenment. In learning how to tame an elephant, one needs faith, health, diligence, honesty, and above all, wisdom. Similarly, following the Buddha to achieve enlightenment requires these 5 qualities. With these 5 qualities, regardless of gender, one does not need much time to learn the Buddha's teachings, as they possess the essential traits for enlightenment. On the path to enlightenment, people see the Buddha with their own eyes, believe in the Buddha with their own hearts. Likewise, it is these same eyes and hearts that have carried people through the cycles of birth and death until today. Like a king who must know where the enemy is to defend his realm, to eradicate delusion, one must first recognize where the eyes and heart are. When someone is in a room, they first see the furniture inside before looking out the window at the scenery. One cannot see outside without first seeing inside the room. Similarly, if the mind resides in the body, it should naturally know the inner body details first, but people often only know external things and are ignorant of their inner selves. If the mind were outside the mind and body would be separate. What the mind knows, the body would not, and vice versa. However, what the mind knows, the body feels, and what the body feels, the mind knows clearly. Thus, the body cannot be outside the mind. So fundamentally, where is the mind? From time immemorial, beings have been bound by karma and afflictions, accumulating mistakes due to not knowing the origins of these two things. First, mistaking the deluded mind, the source of birth and death, as one's true nature. Second, not understanding that the pure mind, inherent in enlightenment, is latent behind the deluded mind. When someone clenches their fist and raises it, the eyes look at it, and the mind analyzes it. However, this analyzing mind is not the true mind. The calculating mind arises from desires, considering personal conditions, arising due to causes and conditions, not the original mind, as it is transient and ever-changing. But people believe this mind to be the true mind, leading to delusion. Then when the hand is opened, the mind knows that the hand is open. This movement is neither solely the hand nor the mind. When the hand moves, the mind moves, and when the mind moves, the hand moves. However, this moving mind is only the superficial layer, not the fundamental true mind. All sentient beings have an inherently pure mind. It is obscured by the dust of delusion due to external conditions. But this deluded mind is a guest, not the host. The moon, sometimes obscured by clouds, is not tainted or disturbed by them. Thus, people should not think their true nature is the deluded mind like drifting dust. People must return to their true self, seeing the unshakable, undefiled, enlightened mind. They are led by a deluded, drifting mind, driven by conflicting views, wandering in confusion. The deluded, polluted mind arises from desires and its interactions with ever-changing external conditions. Whether these conditions come or go, the eternal, unchanging mind, the original mind of humans, remains. Just as one cannot say there is no room because a guest leaves, one cannot say there is no self because the calculating mind born of conditions ceases. The calculating mind of changing conditions is not the original mind. There's a lecture hall here. When the sun rises, it is bright. When the sun sets, it is dark. If the light were returned to the sun and the darkness to the night, the ability to know light and dark remains. That is the original mind. Returning to the original mind, seeing light when the sun appears and darkness when it sets, is the temporary mind. The mind knowing light and dark, guided by external conditions, is temporary, not the fundamental mind. Thoughts of love and hate, good and evil arise and perish due to external conditions, the temporary mind born from impurities stored within. Though surrounded by the dust of afflictions, there remains an untarnished, unpolluted mind, inherently pure from the beginning. Water takes the shape of its container, round in a round vessel, square in a square vessel, but inherently neither round nor square. Most people forget this and get entangled in the shape of water. People see good and evil, think of like and dislike, consider existence and non-existence, and are bound by these thoughts, leading to suffering. If they return external conditions and perspectives, and return to their unbound nature, both body and mind will be free from hindrances, achieving liberation and freedom. 9. Buddha nature. The pure mind, also referred to as Buddha nature, signifies the potential for enlightenment within every being. Buddha nature is like a seed that can grow into a Buddha. Imagine using a lens to focus sunlight onto a pile of dry leaves, causing them to catch fire. The fire is produced by the sun's rays concentrated through the lens onto the leaves. Similarly, the Buddha nature in beings is like the dry leaves, capable of generating enlightenment. When the lens of Buddha's wisdom focuses on this nature, it ignites the fire of faith, illuminating the world. Humans, however, turn their backs on this inherent enlightened nature, becoming entangled in worldly defilements and bound by notions of good and evil. They lament their lack of freedom. Why, despite possessing this innate enlightenment, do people still err, obscuring their Buddha nature and wandering in a world of delusion? There's a story of a young man who one morning looked into a mirror and was astonished to see no reflection of his head or face. It wasn't that his head was missing, but rather he was looking at the back of the mirror. The frustration of not achieving enlightenment is unnecessary and stems from ignorance. In enlightenment, there is no delusion. The mistake lies in seeking enlightenment through a discriminating mind, not realizing this is a deluded mind, not the true mind. The deluded mind, disturbed by external desires, obscures the true mind. If one abandons delusions, enlightenment naturally returns, revealing that enlightenment is not external to delusions. The profound truth here is that upon enlightenment, one realizes there is neither delusion nor something to be enlightened. Buddha nature is inexhaustible. Even if one is born as an animal, suffers as a hungry ghost, or falls into hell, this nature is never lost. No matter how defiled or forgotten, the connection to Buddha nature remains intact. There's a story about a man who, visiting a friend, got drunk and fell asleep. The friend, needing to leave urgently, sewed a precious jewel into the man's coat for his future benefit. The man, unaware, wandered through various lands, struggling for food and clothing. Later, meeting his friend again, he was told about the jewel. Similarly, the jewel represents Buddha nature, hidden beneath layers of ignorance and defilements, but remaining pure and invaluable. Everyone possesses innate wisdom, and the Buddha saw this potential, believing all beings have the virtues and wisdom of a Buddha. However, people, blinded by ignorance, fail to recognize their own Buddha nature. The Buddha teaches that abandoning delusions reveals that inherently they are not different from the Buddha. Here the Buddha refers to an already enlightened being, while humans are Buddhas in the making, with no essential difference. Nevertheless, even as future Buddhas, thinking one has already attained enlightenment is a grave error. Possessing Buddha nature without practice means it does not manifest, and thus enlightenment is not realized. A story illustrates this. A king gathered many blind men and had them touch an elephant. Each man described the elephant based on the part he touched. A tusk felt like a large carrot, the ear like a fan, the trunk like a pestle, the leg like a mortar, and the tail like a rope. None could accurately describe the whole elephant. Similarly, human understanding, though it may grasp aspects of Buddha nature, cannot fully comprehend it without enlightenment. To uncover the unchanging, undying Buddha nature, pure even amidst defilement, one must rely on the Buddha and his teachings. 10. No self, anatta. When discussing the concept of Buddha nature, it may be misunderstood as being akin to a self or ego, but this is a mistake. The notion of self is a creation of the mind's attachment, whereas for the enlightened, the self is an attachment that must be negated, while Buddha nature is a precious jewel that must be revealed. Buddha nature exists within the self, but it does not pertain to the concept of I or mine. The belief in a self is a misconception, perceiving what is not as what is. Conversely, denying Buddha nature is another misconception, perceiving what is as what is not. This can be illustrated with an example. Suppose a mother brings her sick child to a doctor. The doctor prescribes medicine and advises the mother not to nurse the child until the medication is finished. To prevent the child from nursing, the mother applies a bitter substance to her breast, making the child avoid nursing. Once the medication is finished, the mother washes away the bitter substance and resumes nursing the child. This act of the mother stems from her love for her child. Similarly, the Buddha, to eliminate the wrong understanding of self, teaches that there is no self. Once the misconception is eradicated, he reveals the existence of Buddha nature. The self leads to delusion, whereas Buddha nature leads to enlightenment. There is a story about a woman who had a pot of gold in her house but was unaware of it, living in poverty until one day someone unearthed the pot and gave her the gold. Similarly, the Buddha unveils and reveals Buddha nature to beings. If people inherently possess Buddha nature, why is there a distinction between the noble and the lowly, the rich and the poor? Why do painful events like killing and deceit occur? It is similar to a strong man working in the palace who always wore a diamond on his forehead. One day, during a wrestling match, the diamond was driven into his forehead, and he thought he had lost it. However, when he visited a doctor for the wound, the doctor discovered the diamond embedded in his skin and removed it. Buddha nature is similarly obscured by worldly defilements, but it is rediscovered through the skillful guidance of the Buddha. Despite having Buddha nature, people experience different circumstances because it is veiled by greed, anger, and ignorance, bound by karma and its consequences. Nevertheless, Buddha nature remains intact and indestructible, waiting to be rediscovered once delusions are discarded. Like the strong man who found his diamond with the doctor's help, beings find their Buddha nature through the Buddha's enlightenment. Just as cows produce the same white milk regardless of whether they have white, black, or red hair, Buddha nature is the same in all beings, regardless of their different lives and circumstances. It is like a precious herb on the Himalayas, hidden under dense grass and difficult to find. A sage once discovered its fragrance, identified its location, and stored it in a container. After the sage's death, the herb became buried in the mountains and its qualities altered by the container. Buddha nature, similarly, is hidden deep under the grass of defilements. The Buddha reveals this nature to everyone. Though the fragrance of Buddha nature is one, defilements cause it to manifest differently in people's lives. Buddha nature is as enduring as a diamond, impervious to destruction. While ordinary stones can be broken, diamonds cannot. Similarly, while the body and mind can be destroyed, Buddha nature remains indestructible. Buddha nature is the most noble quality in humans. Despite societal distinctions like gender roles, in the Buddha's teachings, all beings are equal regarding Buddha nature. Melting raw gold separates impurities, and refining it produces pure, valuable gold. The mind, like raw gold, when purified, sheds defilements, revealing the pure and equal Buddha nature within everyone. 11 human afflictions. There are two types of afflictions that obscure the pure Buddha nature. One is cognitive afflictions, and the other is emotional afflictions. These two are the fundamental classifications of all afflictions. The roots of these afflictions are ignorance and craving. Ignorance and craving generate all afflictions and are the primary sources of suffering for sentient beings. Ignorance is the lack of understanding of the true nature of things, while craving is the intense desire that forms the basis of attachment to existence, leading to the desire for sensory pleasures and even the desire for death. From these arise afflictions such as greed, anger, delusion, wrong views, resentment, jealousy, flattery, deceit, arrogance, contempt, insensitivity, selfishness, and many other defilements. Greed arises when one sees something desirable and forms incorrect thoughts about it. Anger arises when one sees something undesirable and forms incorrect thoughts about it. Delusion is the lack of knowledge about what should and should not be done. Wrong views arise from receiving incorrect teachings and forming incorrect thoughts. Greed, anger, and delusion are the three fires of the world. The fire of greed ignites desires, burning away one's true nature. The fire of anger ignites rage, causing one to harm sentient beings. The fire of delusion clouds the mind, preventing understanding of the Buddha's teachings. Indeed, this world is ablaze with many kinds of fires. The fires of greed, anger, delusion, birth, aging, sickness, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, and distress, all burning intensely. These afflictive fires not only burn us, but also lead to actions that harm others through unwholesome deeds of body, speech, and mind. Moreover, the festering wounds from these fires poison the mind, leading one down the path of evil. Greed arises from the desire for more, anger from the sense of lack, and delusion from impure thoughts. Greed, though lesser in sin, is hard to relinquish. Anger, though greater in sin, can be relinquished more quickly. Delusion, however, is both great in sin and difficult to relinquish. Therefore, one must think correctly when encountering desirable objects, cultivate compassion when facing undesirable things, and consistently maintain right thoughts to extinguish these three fires. When the mind is always pure, unselfish, and impartial, afflictions will not disturb it. Greed, anger, and delusion are like fevers. Anyone with these fevers, even if lying in a luxurious room, will toss and turn, unable to sleep well. Someone without these fevers, even if sleeping on a thin mat in winter or in a cramped, stuffy room in summer, will sleep soundly. These three, greed, anger, and delusion, are the sources of the world's sorrow and suffering. To end sorrow and suffering, one must follow the precepts, practice meditation, and develop wisdom. Observing the precepts removes the defilement of greed, practicing meditation removes the defilement of anger, and developing wisdom removes the defilement of delusion. Human desires are insatiable, like the thirst of a person drinking salt water, never quenched. The more one drinks, the thirstier one becomes. Human beings strive to satisfy their desires, but they only accumulate dissatisfaction. This insatiable desire leads to the suffering of unfulfilled wishes. When desires are not satisfied, people become frantic. Wars arise from greed, leading to conflicts between kings, ministers, fathers and sons, siblings and friends. Out of greed, people deceive, steal, and engage in immoral behavior. When caught and punished, they suffer. Greed, anger, and delusion lead to evil actions of body, speech, and mind, causing suffering in this life and leading to further suffering in future lives. Craving is the king of all afflictions, giving rise to all other defilements. Craving is like moist soil that nurtures the seeds of afflictions, giving rise to all kinds of defilements. Craving devours virtuous qualities like a demon, extinguishing good deeds. It is like a venomous snake hiding in a flower, ready to strike those who desire its beauty. Craving entwines the mind like a vine around a tree, draining its vitality. Craving cannot nourish the mind, just as a dry bone smeared with blood cannot satisfy a hungry dog. Wild animals fight over meat, tearing each other apart. The ignorant hold a torch against the wind, burning themselves. Like the wild animals and the ignorant, people harm themselves and burn in the fire of craving. Humans can avoid external arrows but cannot avoid the internal arrows of greed, anger, delusion, and pride, which lead to numerous diseases. When these afflictions arise, people lie, speak harshly, deceive, and engage in slander. The mind has 3 unwholesome qualities, speech has 4, and the body has 3, forming the 10 evil deeds. Those accustomed to lying will commit any evil without hesitation. Greed, craving, fear, and anger stem from ignorance, leading to misfortune and suffering. Ignorance is the root poison of humanity. From afflictions arise evil deeds, and from evil deeds arises suffering. Afflictions, evil deeds, and suffering form a continuous cycle, turning endlessly. This cycle has neither beginning nor end. Humans fail to see the need to escape this cycle, endlessly revolving from one life to the next, reborn continuously. In the infinite cycle of birth and death, the accumulated bones of past lives exceed the height of mountains, and the milk consumed exceeds the water of the seas. Thus, despite possessing Buddha nature, humans are mired in the mud of afflictions, making it difficult for their true nature to sprout. Buddha nature, though present, is obscured, explaining the endless delusion of humanity. 12. The nature of humans. The nature of humans is difficult to comprehend, like a dense forest with no clear path. If we compare the nature of humans with that of wild beasts, the latter is much easier to understand. To classify the elusive nature of humans, there are 4 types. The first type includes those who harm themselves by practicing extreme asceticism due to misguided teachings. The second type consists of people who harm others through acts of killing, stealing, and other malevolent deeds. The third type includes individuals who not only harm themselves but also inflict suffering on others. The fourth type comprises those who neither harm themselves nor others. They abstain from sensual desires, live peacefully, adhere to the teachings of the Buddha, refrain from killing and stealing, and lead a pure life. Additionally, in this world, there are 3 types of people. The first type is like letters carved in stone, representing those who harbor long-lasting grudges and anger that is deeply ingrained, much like letters etched in stone that do not fade. The second type is like letters written in sand, symbolizing people who get angry, but whose anger dissipates quickly, like letters written in sand that are soon washed away. The third type is like letters written in water, referring to those who are gentle-natured and do not hold on to anger or resentment, much like letters written in water that instantly disappear without forming a clear shape. Moreover, there are also 3 other types of people. The first type is shallow and easy to understand, often arrogant and superficial, and generally not calm. The second type is deep and difficult to comprehend, calm and deeply attentive to things, capable of enduring desires. The third type is extremely difficult to understand, having eradicated all afflictions. In this way, we can categorize these types of people. However, the true nature of humans remains complex and hard to grasp. Only the Buddha fully understands all these characteristics and provides teachings that are appropriate for each individual. 13. The reality of life. There is an illustrative story about life. A man is rowing a boat downstream when someone on the shore yells a warning. Don't enjoy drifting downstream. Ahead are waves, whirlpools, crocodiles, and fierce demons lurking in the depths. Continuing downstream means certain death. In this example, the river symbolizes a life of sensual desires. Enjoying drifting downstream represents attachment to oneself. Waves stand for a life of hatred and sorrow. Whirlpools, for the pleasures of sensuality. Crocodiles and fierce demons, for a life destroyed by sin. And the person on the shore represents the Buddha. Another example tells of a man fleeing after committing a crime. Being pursued, he reaches a dead end where he finds an old well with a vine hanging down. Clinging to the vine, he descends the well only to see a venomous snake waiting with an open mouth below. With no other options, he hangs there in pain. Two mice, one black and one white, start gnawing at the vine. If the vine breaks, he will fall prey to the snake. Looking up, he sees a few drops of sweet honey dripping from a nearby beehive, and forgetting his danger, he becomes entranced by the taste. In this story, the man represents the solitary nature of birth and death, being pursued, and the venomous snake symbolize the body born from desire. The vine in the old well represents human life. The black and white mice symbolize time, and the drops of honey signify the fleeting pleasures of sensual desires. Yet another story involves a king who owns a box containing 4 poisonous snakes. He commands a man to care for the snakes, warning that if any of them become agitated, the man must die. Fearing the king's order, the man flees. The king then sends 5 officials to capture him, pretending to be friendly. Not trusting them, the man escapes into a village house. Suddenly, a voice from the sky warns that 6 robbers will attack the village that night. Terrified, he flees again and arrives at a river with dangerous waves, but he constructs a raft and narrowly crosses to safety. In this story, the 4 poisonous snakes represent the 4 elements of earth, water, fire, and wind that form the body, originating from desire and acting as enemies to the mind. The 5 officials symbolize the 5 aggregates of human existence, and the village house represents the 6 senses. The 6 robbers are the 6 sense objects. Seeing the danger of the senses, he flees, and the river symbolizes the turbulent activity of afflictions. By rowing the raft of the Dharma across the vast river of afflictions, he reaches the other shore safely. In life, there are 3 situations where even a mother cannot save her child, and a child cannot save their mother. These are during a great fire, a great flood, or a great robbery. However, in these 3 calamities, there is sometimes a chance for mutual rescue. Here, the 3 inevitable calamities that even a mother cannot save her child from, and vice versa, are old age, illness, and death. How can a child replace their mother's old age? Even if a child cries over their mother's illness, the mother cannot suffer the illness in place of the child. Despite the deep love between mother and child, neither can save the other from death. For the guilty, when they have done much evil in this world and fall into hell after death, the Lord of Hell questions them. Did you not encounter the 3 divine messengers while you were alive? No, I did not, the sinner replies. Did you ever see an old person with a hunched back, trembling with a cane? Yes, there were many. Though you saw the divine messenger of old age, you did not think you too would grow old and quickly do good deeds. Now you suffer the consequences. The Lord of Hell continues. Did you ever see someone sick, unable to rise, with blurred vision and emaciated body? Yes, I saw many like that. Though you saw the divine messenger of sickness, you did not think you too would fall ill, and now you suffer here. Did you ever see people die around you? Yes, I saw many die. Though you saw the divine messenger of death, you did not reflect on your own mortality and neglected to do good deeds. You now face the consequences of your actions. There is a story about a young woman named Gautama whose only child died. In her grief, she carried her child's body everywhere, seeking someone to revive him. The villagers, moved by pity, watched helplessly. One of the Buddha's disciples suggested she visit the Buddha at Jetavana Monastery. She went immediately. The Buddha, seeing her distress, said, "To heal your child, you need a few mustard seeds from a household that has never experienced death." She went from house to house but could not find one without death. Finally, she returned to the Buddha, who sat silently. Understanding his lesson, she realized the inevitability of death, buried her child, and became his disciple. 14. The true nature of delusion. People in this world often experience cold-heartedness and lack mutual respect or familial affection. They compete for trivial gains, live in misery and hardship, toiling for their own benefit, only to pass through life in such a manner. Whether high or low in status, rich or poor, people suffer from one thing: money. Having money brings suffering, and lacking it brings suffering. Their minds are driven by desires, preventing any peace of mind. The wealthy worry about their fields if they have land, and their houses if they have property. Their attachments to possessions bring compounded worries. When facing natural disasters, hardship, theft, or fires that destroy their belongings, they become so distressed that they may lose their lives. Yet in death, they go alone, with nothing and no one accompanying them. The poor suffer from not having enough, desiring houses and fields, burning with thoughts of wanting more until their bodies and minds are exhausted. Thus, they do not live out their lives fully, often dying prematurely. They see the world as hostile, traversing a solitary, lonely path. Furthermore, there are 5 evils in this world. First, competition and contention. All creatures, from humans to insects, prey on the weak and despise the strong, biting and fighting each other. Second, there is no clear distinction between father and son, husband and wife, senior and junior. Mutual respect is absent. Everyone centers on themselves, despising one another with differing thoughts and words, lacking sincerity. Third, improper relationships between men and women, harboring impure and immoral thoughts, leading others into disrepute and legal troubles. Fourth, there is no common intention to do good. Instead, people lead each other to evil deeds, deceit, and harmful speech, causing mutual harm. They fail to respect one another, seeing themselves as superior while harming others without introspection. Fifth, laziness prevails, neglecting good deeds, gratitude, and responsibility, acting on selfish desires and troubling others, ultimately committing grave sins. People should love and respect each other, yielding to one another. Yet, for the slightest gain, they compete and harbor hatred. Minor disputes grow over time, leading to increasing animosity. Harmful actions and conflicts in this world do not cease immediately, with hatred deepening over time. When resentment is deeply ingrained, it continues even into the next life, leading to mutual harm. People are born alone into this world of desires and die alone. No one can bear the consequences of their actions for them. Each person must endure their karma. Good deeds bring happiness, and evil deeds bring suffering, an immutable truth. However, people do not consider the responsibility for their actions, facing inevitable consequences alone. Love and attachment bind people in sorrow, enduring years without escaping painful thoughts. They immerse in desires, surrounded by evil intentions leading to bad actions, conflicting with others, unable to approach the righteous path, and facing untimely death and eternal suffering. Such actions go against the natural way, rejecting the world's principles, resulting in calamities and suffering in this life and beyond. Indeed, worldly matters pass like a flash, offering no true reliance or strength. It is pitiable for those unaware of this, endlessly seeking pleasure. These examples illustrate the true nature of the world, where people live in suffering and commit evil without knowing to do good. Consequently, they cannot avoid the karmic consequences of suffering. People are self-centered, failing to show kindness to others, driven by desires and plagued by afflictions. This leads to suffering and the results of suffering. Worldly glory fades quickly and cannot last. Earthly pleasures do not endure. Therefore, people should set aside worldly matters, seek the path while still healthy, and aspire for eternal life. There is no greater reliance or happiness than seeking enlightenment. Yet, people do not believe that good deeds bring good results, nor that acting righteously leads to righteousness. They do not trust that giving brings happiness or that all actions have consequences. They harbor mistaken thoughts, unaware of the principles of fortune and misfortune, and merely lament current events. Since everything changes, it is said that all things are impermanent. People only know to lament and suffer, ignoring the teachings, failing to reflect deeply on their minds and indulging in immediate pleasures, craving wealth and sensual desires without end. From ancient times, people have lived in ignorance, submerged in suffering and sorrow, a tale that never ends. To this day, this delusion persists. Now, encountering the Buddha's teachings, hearing his name, and trusting in him is truly joyous. Therefore, one must cultivate good thoughts, avoid evil, choose good, and diligently practice. Today, we are fortunate to encounter the Buddha's words. Everyone should trust his teachings and aspire to be born in his realm. By believing in his teachings, one will not follow others into the path of afflictions and sin. These teachings are not only for oneself, but should be shared with others to practice together. 15. The vows of Gautama Buddha. As mentioned before, human life is difficult to separate from afflictions, and from time immemorial, humans have accumulated sins like mountains, deepening their delusion. Therefore, even though they possess the jewel of Buddha nature, it is not easy to awaken it. The Buddha clearly saw this condition of humanity. In ancient times, there was a bodhisattva who, out of compassion for humans and wanting to alleviate all their fears, became a great compassionate bodhisattva. He made many vows and declared that no matter how much hardship his body would endure, he would definitely fulfill them. The main vows are, A. If I become a Buddha, the beings born in my pure land will also be able to attain Buddhahood. If this is not achieved, I vow not to become a Buddha. B. If I become a Buddha, but my light cannot illuminate the entire universe, I vow not to become a Buddha. C. If I become a Buddha, but my lifespan is measurable, regardless of the number, I vow not to become a Buddha. D. If I become a Buddha, but the Buddhas of the 10 directions do not praise me extensively and do not chant my name, I vow not to become a Buddha. E. If I become a Buddha, but sentient beings in the 10 directions, with sincere hearts, deeply believing in me, wish to be born in my land, and recite my name 10 times without being able to be reborn, I vow not to become a Buddha. F. If I become a Buddha, but sentient beings in the 10 directions, cultivating many virtues with sincere hearts, wish to be born in my land, and at their time of death, I do not appear with a great retinue of bodhisattvas to welcome them, I vow not to become a Buddha. G. If I become a Buddha, but sentient beings in the 10 directions, hearing my name, think of my land, having planted many virtues and sincerely offering, wish to be born in my land, and cannot achieve their wish, I vow not to become a Buddha. H. If I become a Buddha, the beings born in my land will achieve the next stage of becoming a Buddha in their future lives. Except for those who make separate vows, wearing the great vow garment for the benefit of sentient beings, diligently working for their benefit and peace, guiding countless beings to enlightenment and practicing great compassion. If not, I vow not to become a Buddha. If I become a Buddha, but all sentient beings in the 10 directions, when encountering my light, do not have a softened body and mind and do not desire better things than in this world, I vow not to become a Buddha. J. If I become a Buddha, but all sentient beings in the 10 directions, hearing my name, do not gain deep faith, unbound by birth and death, and do not gain profound wisdom without obstacles, I vow not to become a Buddha. Now I make these vows. If they are not completely fulfilled, I swear not to achieve supreme enlightenment. I will become a source of endless light illuminating all worlds, saving all from suffering, revealing the treasure of true Dharma, and bestowing boundless merits everywhere. Having made these vows, he accumulated merits over countless ages, creating a pure land and became a Buddha long ago, now teaching in the Western Pure Land. That land is pure, peaceful, free from afflictions, filled with the joy of enlightenment. Clothing, food, and all beautiful things manifest according to the wishes of the beings in that land. When gentle breezes blow, the jeweled trees sway, producing Dharma sounds that resonate in all directions, purifying the minds of those who hear. Furthermore, the land is adorned with blooming lotuses of various colors, each petal reflecting radiant light, each light conveying the Buddha's teachings, leading those who listen to peace on the path of enlightenment. At that time, all the Buddhas in the 10 directions praised the outstanding merits of this Buddha. Anyone who hears his name and joyfully believes in him will be reborn in his pure land. Those who arrive in his land have infinite lifespans and also make vows to save others, encouraged to fulfill these vows. By making such vows, they transcend attachments and realize the supreme Dharma, benefiting themselves and others, living in compassion with everyone, free from worldly attachments. The people in the Buddha's land understand the suffering of this world and the limitless compassion of the Buddha. In their hearts, there is no attachment, no distinction between self and others, coming or going, advancing or stopping, all free from fixation, achieving freedom as they wish. Moreover, they choose to stay with those whom the Buddha compassionately embraces. Therefore, if anyone, upon hearing the name of this Buddha, feels joyful and courageous, even chanting his name once, they will receive great benefits. Hence, even if they must pass through this fiery world, they should joyfully believe and practice his teachings. If one earnestly seeks enlightenment, they must rely on the power of this Buddha. Without the support of the Buddhas, attaining enlightenment is impossible for ordinary people. Amitabha Buddha is not far from us. Though his pure land seems distant, it exists in the minds of those who remember him. First, if one visualizes his form in their mind, seeing him with thousands of radiant golden lights and 84,000 distinctive marks, each mark emitting 84,000 rays of light, each ray illuminating those who sincerely recite his name, embracing everyone without exception. By contemplating this Buddha, one can contemplate the Buddha's mind. His mind is great compassion, saving not only those with faith, but also those unaware or forgetful of the Buddha's compassion. For those with faith, the Buddha grants the opportunity to unite with him. If one thinks of the Buddha, because he manifests everywhere, he also appears in the minds of all people. Therefore, when one thinks of the Buddha, that mind truly contains the Buddha with complete features and marks, making that mind the Buddha's mind. Those with pure, sincere faith should visualize their mind as the Buddha's mind. The Buddha has many forms, manifesting according to the capacity of each person, filling the world beyond imagination. One can see his form in the universe, in nature, in each person. However, by chanting the Buddha's name, one can surely see his form. This Buddha often accompanies two bodhisattvas, welcoming those who chant his name. Though his manifestations fill the world, only those with faith can see him. Even contemplating the Buddha's provisional form brings immense merits, and contemplating his true form brings immeasurable merits. The Buddha's mind is great wisdom and compassion, capable of saving anyone, regardless of their condition. Even those who commit severe crimes, harboring thoughts of greed, hatred, and delusion, speaking deceitful, harmful, or divisive words, committing murder, theft, or sexual misconduct, though destined for endless suffering due to their evil deeds, at the moment of death, if a good friend advises them, "Perhaps you are in pain now, but just silently call the Buddha's name and you will benefit." They sincerely call the Buddha's name, and in an instant, all their sins are eradicated, saving them from the dark world. If one chants the Buddha's name, they can eliminate sins that would lead to endless suffering. Therefore, with single-minded remembrance, one gains even greater benefits. Those who diligently chant the Buddha's name are as pure as white lotuses, becoming companions of the bodhisattvas of compassion and wisdom, never straying from the holy path, and ultimately being reborn in the pure land. Therefore, people should remember this. Remembering this is also remembering the Buddha's name. 16. The Pure Land. This Buddha is currently preaching the Dharma. People in this pure land know nothing of suffering, only living leisurely and joyfully, hence it is called the land of ultimate bliss. In this land, there are lotus ponds made of 7 treasures, filled with pure water. The bottom of the pond is covered with golden sand, and large lotus flowers bloom as wide as cartwheels. These lotus flowers emit different lights based on their colors. The blue ones radiate blue light, the yellow ones radiate yellow light, the red ones radiate red light, and the white ones radiate white light, all exuding an elegant and pleasant fragrance. Surrounding the ponds are pavilions made of 4 treasures: gold, silver, emerald, and crystal, with staircases made of marble. Elsewhere, the ponds have railings adorned with precious stones and screens set with jewels. In the center, rows of fragrant trees and flowers bloom year-round. In the sky, celestial music plays, and on the ground, there is a golden glow. Day and night, flowers rain down, and the people of this land collect these flowers to offer them to the Buddhas of other lands. In the expanse of this land, there are myriad birds, such as white cranes and snow-white swans, colorful peacocks, and celestial birds called kalavinkas, which often sing harmonious songs imbued with the meanings of the Dharma, extolling all virtues and good deeds. When people hear these sounds, they recite the Buddha's name, think of the Buddha's teachings, and live harmoniously with one another. Anyone who hears this kind of music feels as though they are hearing the Buddha's voice, which inspires faith in the Buddha, renews the joy of listening to the Dharma, and strengthens bonds with fellow practitioners. Gentle breezes rustle through the jeweled trees, causing the hanging jewel bells to chime, creating wonderful sounds, playing 100,000 melodies simultaneously. Those who hear this music naturally remember the Buddha, think of the Dharma, and recall the harmonious assembly of the Buddha's disciples. The pure land of this Buddha is full of such merits and beauty. Why is this Buddha called the Buddha of infinite light and infinite life? Because the Buddha's light is immeasurable, illuminating all the worlds of the 10 directions without any obstruction. His lifespan is also immeasurable, hence he is called by these names. Furthermore, the beings born in this pure land reach a stage where they do not return to the deluded world, and their numbers are countless. Due to the Buddha's radiant light, the number of people enlightened by him is also immeasurable. If a person keeps the name of this Buddha in their heart from 1 day to 7 days with unwavering focus, then at the time of their death, this Buddha, along with many holy beings, will appear before them. Their mind will not waver, and they will immediately be reborn in this Buddha's pure land. If people hear the name of this Buddha and believe in these teachings, they will be protected by the Buddha and will attain supreme enlightenment.